So something really absurd has been happening this week, and Lisa and I are pretty upset about it, and I wanted to share this with all of you. And what's happening is that activists are being prosecuted for trying to help animals. And after I thought about this, I realized we could turn this into a good thing, but I want to explain why. And Lisa wants to explain why too, but let me give you some backdrop. Yesterday, my good friend Paul had to be hauled into federal court to face charges for asking Bernie Sanders a question a few months ago. And his question was a simple one. Bernie, you say you're fighting for the little guy. You say you care about fighting big corporations who are trying to destroy the world. And I've got a question for you. Big corporations are receiving $120 billion in subsidies to torture animals. $120 billion with a B. And part of that money is coming from taking $9 billion away from needy, poor families and children, taken from food stamps. So if you say you're fighting for little guys, for families and for kids and against big corporations, how in God's name can you support this bill? And for asking Bernie Sanders this question, my friend Paul was assaulted by federal agents, thrown over a fence, and then charged for trespassing because he went over a fence that Secret Service agents threw him over. So here's case study one, Paul Picklesheimer being charged for asking Bernie Sanders a question on behalf of animals. The second case study is my friend Diane. And my friend Diane got word that Costco, one of the biggest food chains in the United States, was selling eggs that were cage-free and certified humane, but actually were being produced in conditions that were just abominable. And it turned out to be true, that at this farm that Costco said was certified humanes, hens were literally eating each other alive. We have the footage from inside this farm showing birds eating each other alive. And Diane did what every good person would do. She tried to help one of these birds. She stood on a public street, and when someone gave her one of these hens, her name was Ella, who was on the precipice of death, she drove the hen to the vet. That's all she did. She took the hen into her arms, she drove the hen to the vet. The hen's safe and happy and alive now because of Diane's efforts. And she was charged with multiple felonies for this. So you look at cases like this and you say, what in God's name is happening? How are activists being prosecuted for acts of compassion, for asking questions of politicians who in theory are fighting for the little guy? And the reason is we're doing effective activism. We're challenging the system of speciesism, and the industry needs to respond. But here's the key thing. While the industry is responding and trying to suppress us and repress us and silence us and even put some of our activists in prison, this is also an opportunity. I'm going to be giving a talk this Sunday at the Berkeley Animal Rights Center that talks about how we can use the power of sacrifice. We can use the prosecutions and the efforts to suppress us, the efforts to imprison us, to our own advantage. Because in the history of social movements, and I'll go through case studies and history and even statistics, in the history of social movements, every single movement has flourished, not just because of their activism directly, but because they respond effectively to repression. And we need to do the same thing. So Lisa and I and Oliver and the other animals in here are asking you to come to the talk. If you happen to be in Berkeley, come to the Animal Rights Center on Sunday at 3 p.m. to hear this talk, Rescue or Terrorism. If you're not in Berkeley or in the Bay Area, there's a live stream that will start at 3 p.m. because we're going to talk about how the power of sacrifice has been harnessed by activists throughout the world to change the world. And if we support Paul, if we support Diane, if we see the power in each of us to overcome the fear that we have, the anxiety we have about being vegans or animal rights activists, and stand strong for our cause, even in the face of powerful corporations who want to shut us down, we can change the world. So I'll see you this Sunday at 3 p.m. If you're not available in person, I'll see you online. We're going to take questions. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to learn about how we together can change the world for animals and harness the power of sacrifice.